moving on, next up, previewing upcoming weekend cards, UFC Copenhagen, Jack Hermansson versus Jared Cannonier. Both guys coming off big wins in the middleweight division. Hermansson picking up the submission win against Jack Ray Souza, and Jared Cannonier picking up the TKO win against Anderson Silva. The TKO win obviously due to technically a injury, but still significant wins for both guys, and now facing each other. Fu, thoughts on this competitive middleweight fight between two guys who are relatively unknown, but honestly, Hermansson's one of those guys where he could be knocking on the door of a Adesanya Whitaker winner really soon, or after this fight, honestly, and beat them, and it really shouldn't be shocking. He seems like a freak, a athletic freak, a skilled talent. So, Fu, thoughts on this fight? Plus, Cannonier, a monster heavy hitter. I mean, the guy was a heavyweight. Now he's a middleweight, for God's sake. Guy's gigantic. Fu, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I will pick Hermansson in this fight. I think that as long as he can control, if he can fight his fight, he'll be fine. Cannonier really just has like the ability to end it at any point, right? So as long as there's no like freak accident or anything, I think Hermansson will win and go on to, like you said, take on potentially like an Adesanya.
And quickly, I was wrong. He didn't beat Jack Ray Souza via submission. He just had him in deep submission threats at times. My apologies.
I think he just won like
via unanimous decision. Right? Yeah, 5-round decision too. That's a good thing. Yeah, I think Hermansson should win. I think he's the better overall fighter, but this fight is a standing affair for majority of the fight. Cannonier has the power, and especially the speed. That's the thing Cannonier has. He's not just a big lumbering guy with power. He is such a fast guy. Yeah. And I could see him easily catching Hermansson with a combination, hurting him, and that killer instinct is just unreal. And we also saw a little bit with Anderson Silva that he had sort of the discipline to pick his shots, look at the timing, sort of analyze what the distance and range was of the fight, and look for shots. And I think Cannonier is going to be one of those guys where he might surprise us in this fight and others. So it's just a really fun matchup. Other great fights on this card, Gunnar Nelson versus Gilbert Burns. Both guys are fantastic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. That means that this is probably going to be a stand-up fight because neither guy is going to be able to take each other down and get the advantage. Or they get on the ground and we see some high-level displays of grappling. Ian Chutaleba versus Khalil Roundtree Jr. That fight is fantastic. Or it could be a bad fight as well. It's one of those where it could either be really fast, entertaining, and violent, or they get really tired after one round, and the next two rounds are really slow and boring. Nicholas Dalby versus Alex Oliveira. I don't see how that fight's bad. I don't see how that fight's bad at all. Both guys are known for, giving unheard of quantities of blood to the octagon gods, and on top of that, just delivering violence. OSP on the card. Always excited to see him. Sierra Barzada on the card. Always delivers violence. And a deep, deep cut on the card. Guys, you have to watch this fight. It's early in the night. I know, and that means for us here in the U.S., it's early in the day. So that means this fight's going to be at like 7 a.m. for us, 8 a.m. for us, Fu. But Lando Venata versus Mark Dicassi. I don't know how this fight's this low on the card. I mean, Mark Dicassi is a borderline top 15 lightweight, for God's sake. A lightweight. The deepest division in the sport. And Lando Venata almost beat Tony Ferguson in his first UFC fight on short notice. Lando Venata is one of those guys where he could beat anyone on any day. And plus, both guys are exciting fighters. I'm really enjoying this card from just on paper and looking at it and analyzing it. This is definitely one to watch on ESPN+. Fu, any other thoughts on the undercard of this UFC fight night?
No, I'm really excited to see OSP, and I think overall this is, like you said, it's a pretty stacked card. It's like one of those, like we kind of talk about with boxing, where maybe it's not like a bunch of big names or whatever, it's not like a massive main event, but it's going to be a lot of good fights, like a lot of entertaining fights.
A good example would almost be like the Lubin and Robert Easter doubleheader on Showtime coming up. Great card, fun card, but there's no title fight on it. There's no real significant fight on it, but top to bottom, they look like it's going to be fun, competitive fights.
Yeah.
Sort of in that vein, this one is that for the UFC. Moving on to Bellator coming up this weekend. I kind of hate when they do this. Bellator Dublin and Bellator 227 are technically the same event. They're on the same location, but they're split up. UFC Dublin, I believe, is going to be tape delay. Again, do not quote me on this. Bellator 227, air quote, which is Ben Henderson versus Miles Jury, a really good fight in my opinion. That will not be tape delay. Again, I do not know if I have that correct. I also do not care a little bit because we also have a third Bellator card this weekend on Saturday in LA at the Forum with Patricio Ferreira versus Juan Archuleta and Lyoto Machida versus Gegard Mousasi, AJ McKee, Georgi Karakarian, Darian Caldwell, Daniel Weichel, Antonio McKee, AJ Agrazam. A lot of significant fighters. Ava Knight, also a significant signee in women's MMA. A lot of good Bellator fights up and down. I would say, again, Ben Henderson, Miles Jury is probably the best fight, in my opinion, of all of them. I love that fight. But, any individual fighters you are curious to see coming up this weekend for Bellator? And again, a 30, 40 fight weekend for them, which is just way too much and clearly oversaturating the market. And again, tape delay in 2019 makes zero fucking sense.
Also, it's really hard on someone like me because it's hard for me to decide what to watch here and to pick up on it. Like, I'm not, I'm fairly casual in MMA, so it's like 3 events, 40 fights or something. It's like, dude, I can't keep up with all these guys. Obviously I know who like Pitbull is, so like, most likely catch that fight and Henderson. But Bellator makes it pretty hard on like an entry level like fan.
Yes, they do.
Like, it's overwhelming.
And I don't think they do a good job of like explaining who these people are and why you should care about them. They don't do that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They kind of expect you, if you're watching Bellator, you should know who these guys are. And that's an issue, in my opinion. Moving on, though.